Welcome. My name is Jerry Sunarine, and today we're going to be looking at how can we solve story problems in perimeter and area. Before we get into today's lesson, we're going to review what is a composite area. A composite area is a figure or shape that can be divided into more than one of the basic figures. So when we're talking about basic figures, we're talking about squares, rectangles, triangles, and so on. So reviewing those types of shapes will be important for students to understand how we can break down shapes into smaller pieces. So if we look at the figure over here, we see that this is a shape this is a figure that can be broken down into smaller, more basic figures. So here we can say like we could divide it like into one shape here and another one here. And in today's lesson, we're going to be looking at when there are missing information, how we can figure out that missing information. So here, if we notice, we don't know the length of this part, so we can use other information such as if we look above, we see that this line is 8 yards and this line is 6 yards. When we combine them, like the blue line here, it would be the same value down here. So therefore, this side would be 14 yards. And over here, we do not know the value for this width, but what we can do is use known information. So we know that the whole thing is 9 yards. And on this side, this is missing, and this is 6. So we can think about something plus 6 equals 9, or 9 minus 6 gives us 3. Therefore, this would be 3 yards. Okay, we're going to look at, based on the information here, how we can find the area in two different ways. Okay, so here we have the same figure, but in this regard, we're going to look at one way you can find the area and another way. The first way we can find the area is by breaking it down into two basic figures, so two different rectangles here. This is a rectangle and here's a rectangle, and we know that the area is length times width. So here we can say 8 times 9 gives us 72, and here 6 times 6 is 36. And since this is two figures that's connected, we can add the two values together and we'll find out that the area is 108 yards squared. Another way we can do this is by putting a line across to make this a huge rectangle. And since this part is empty, we can take the area of this value and subtract the two values to get our total area. So if we take the total area of the figure, we will multiply 9 times 14, giving us 126. Then we could take the area of this area that's shaded in here, which is 3 yards by 6 yards, which is 18. And we subtract 126 minus 18, giving us 108 yards. Two different ways of working through this problem. However, in both ways, you get the same answer. Okay, we're going to look over a question and see how we can compare what we know to this. Okay, so Kyle puts two rectangles together to make an L-shaped figure below. He measured some of the side lengths and records them as shown. What we need you to do is find the perimeter of Kyle's shape and find the area of Kyle's shape. So here, pause the video, think about what we have talked about, how to find missing information, and how to find the area. And we showed you two different ways. So again, pause the video, and we're going to resume on the next slide. Okay, so hopefully you had enough time to go through and find the perimeter and the area of the shape. So we're going to first go over the perimeter. So what we need to do is figure out the missing sides. So we have two missing sides here because remember, perimeter means we're going to add up all the sides on the outside. So here, we don't know the value. However, we know that the whole length is 12 and this part is 6. So therefore, this side must be 12 minus 6, giving us 6 inches. Over here, we do have a missing side. We know the whole thing is 16 inches. We know that this part is known, which is 8 inches, and here we do not know. So what we can do is 16 minus 8 gives us 8. Therefore, for the perimeter, we just add up all the values around the figure. So 12, 16, 6, 8, 6, and 8, and we should get a total of 56 inches. Next, we're going to go over the area, and again, we can figure out the area by two different methods. And here, if we divide up this figure into two basic figures, we can take the area of each. So if we take the area of this figure, we do 12 times 8, which is 96 inches squared. And when we do this figure, which is 8 times 6, which is 48, and we would get an area of 48 inches squared. When we add the two values together, we get 144 inches squared. The other method we could do is figuring out by putting extra lines so that we can figure out the area of the whole figure and minusing it from this blank space, because we don't have that area. So when we take the big area, we would multiply 12 times 16 gives us 192 inches squared. Small area, which would be 6 by 8, when we multiply that, we get 48 inches squared. Because this is blank space, we subtract it from our big area. So 192 minus 48 gives us 144 inches squared. Notice they're both the same answer, so whichever method you feel comfortable in doing this, feel free to do so. We're going to go over one more question. Okay, so Kyle makes 2 copies of the L-shaped figure to create the rectangle shown below. Find the perimeter of the rectangle. So pause the video, think about the other information that was on the previous slide so that we could figure out the missing side links and see if you can find the perimeter of the rectangle. Okay, we're going to resume on the next slide. Okay, so from the previous slide, what I did was included the other missing lengths so that we can include this. So you can feel free to pause the video, rewind, and find those values. After we do that, we know that perimeter means that we're going to add up all the lengths on the outside, all the sides on the outside, and when we do that, we add up all these values, and these are the same values around this figure, and we get a perimeter of 72 inches. So the perimeter of the rectangle is 72 inches. Now we're going to move into our summarization. To summarize, how can we solve story problems in perimeter and area? Use given information to find out missing information, and know different ways to find the area of composite figures. Hope this was helpful and have a great day.